On the night of her wedding, Maya Carter believed she was finally stepping into the life she deserved. After years of heartbreak, betrayal, and silence, she thought she had escaped the ghosts of her past. At 31, she wasn't naive anymore. She had already survived one failed marriage, rebuilt her career as a data analyst in Chicago, and learned to guard her heart like a locked vault. Romance wasn't something she chased, it was something she no longer believed in. But then came Victor Miles. Victor was everything Maya's ex-husband wasn't. He was older, refined, a 42-year-old attorney who specialized in family law. He was articulate, poised, and adored in professional circles. Victor had written a best-selling book called The Honest Marriage, a title that made him a sought-after guest on talk shows and podcasts. He was known for his calm wisdom, his strong opinions on communication, and his insistence that transparency was the foundation of any relationship. He preached about truth like it was gospel. The first time they met wasn't romantic. Maya was working at a tech conference where Victor happened to stop by her booth. He didn't come for the software. He later admitted he came because he noticed her smile, a smile that looked polite but tired, like she was forcing it. "I could tell you were faking it," he said with a grin that was just a little too perfect. "But you were still kind. That's rare these days." Maya rolled her eyes and dismissed him as another smooth-talking professional making small talk. But Victor didn't fade away. He kept showing up, inviting her to lunch, sending her articles he thought she'd like, leaving her voice messages that sounded more like quiet reflections than rehearsed lines. Over months, Maya let her guard down. Slowly, carefully. Victor never pushed. He never crossed her boundaries. He didn't even kiss her until their 5th date. He made her feel seen, respected, even safe. When she asked why he was so patient, he would just smile and say, "The right connection doesn't need rushing. We're building something sacred. Let's protect it." For a woman who had been lied to and cheated on for years, those words were healing. They dated for 14 months. No sex. Not even close. Victor told her it was part of his values. He was deeply religious, he said, and believed in preserving intimacy for marriage. He called it emotional fasting. At times it made her curious. At times it made her frustrated. But she respected his choice. After all, this wasn't some random man off a dating app. This was Victor Miles, the man who had built a career helping couples stay together. When he proposed on a balcony overlooking New Orleans riverfront, with fairy lights and a string quartet softly playing in the background, Maya didn't hesitate. She cried. Not because she was surprised, but because she finally allowed herself to believe. "This is what it feels like to be chosen," she whispered to herself that night. Really chosen. The months leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind of planning, bridal fittings, premarital counseling, and endless well-wishes from people who followed their love story online. They called them Black excellence personified. He was the polished attorney with a heart of gold. She was the resilient woman who had rebuilt her life. Together, they were a symbol of love's second chances. Their wedding was everything you'd expect from a man like Victor. A rooftop venue in Chicago draped with silk and flowers. Guests sipping champagne under crystal chandeliers. Vows so poetic the crowd teared up. Even Maya's mother, who had always been skeptical of men, especially older ones, was visibly moved. "You're my safe harbor," Victor said, holding Maya's hands as he promised to cherish her forever. "I'll protect you with every breath I have." And for a moment, Maya felt like she was floating. After years of disappointment, she believed she had finally found a man who wasn't just charming. He was solid, dependable. But the truth was already there, hidden in the small things. Victor never changed clothes in front of her. Not even a shirt. The one time she playfully opened the bathroom door while he was inside, he panicked, snapped the door shut and whispered, "Please. I need privacy. I wasn't ready." He apologized 100 times after, blaming childhood trauma, saying modesty was part of his spiritual practice. Maya accepted it. Everyone had quirks, right? Victor never spoke about past relationships, either. No exes, no bachelor party stories, no romantic history. He called himself a late bloomer, said he didn't have time for dating because he spent most of his youth studying law and taking care of his sick mother. The way he told it, softly, humbly, made Maya feel guilty for even wondering. "I'm just grateful God saved me for you," he once told her. "I didn't think I'd ever find a woman who could love me for who I am." On May 14, 2022, they got married. It was the perfect spring afternoon. Maya wore ivory lace. Victor wore a custom charcoal suit. Their first dance was To At Last by Etta James. Everything looked perfect. Everyone said it felt perfect. But the perfection ended the moment the door to their honeymoon suite closed behind them. They checked into the Magnolia Grand Hotel in New Orleans. A luxury suite with a private terrace, a soaking tub with rose petals, and a bottle of Dom Perignon waiting on ice. They kissed. They laughed. They toasted to forever. Maya slipped into a silk robe while Victor excused himself to the bathroom. Her heart was racing, not just from nerves, but from something deeper. This was their moment. The first time they would truly share themselves physically, emotionally, fully. She turned down the lights, lit a candle, and waited on the bed. When Victor came out, he was quiet. Too quiet. He climbed into bed without looking her in the eye. Maya leaned in and kissed him gently at first, then with more urgency. He kissed back, but something was off. His hands trembled. His whole body was tense, like he was bracing for impact. "It's okay," Maya whispered. "I love you. You don't have to be scared." Victor nodded. "I know. I waited so long for this. It's overwhelming." Then, Maya reached down. And froze. There was nothing. No penis. No testicles. No scars. No signs of surgery. Just smooth, flat skin. For a second, she thought, maybe he's been injured. Maybe it's medical. Maybe he's wearing something. "Victor," she whispered, her voice cracking. What is this?" His face collapsed. All the composure he had carefully built over the past year crumbled in an instant. "Please don't scream," he begged. "Please. I wanted to tell you. I tried so many times." Maya's body went cold. Her heart pounded so loud she could barely hear him. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice rising. "What the hell is going on?" Victor swallowed hard. Then the truth finally came out. "I was born intersex," he choked. "I don't have male or female genitalia. I was raised as a boy, but my body, it never developed the way it should have. Doctors said I could live a normal life if I just kept quiet. So I did. I've kept quiet my whole life." And in that moment, the man Maya thought she knew, the man she had just married, became a stranger. Maya Carter was not a woman who believed in fairy tales. She used to. Back when she was 23, fresh out of college with a journalism degree and a heart still unscarred. Back then, she believed in love stories the way people believe in gravity. They just made sense. But life has a way of breaking you in small, calculated pieces. Her first marriage to Derek Vaughn was a cautionary tale she never saw coming. Derek was her college sweetheart. He was charming, ambitious, the kind of man who could talk his way out of anything. They married young, thinking love was enough. But 2 years in, Maya discovered Derek's affair, not with another woman, but with 3. The betrayal shattered her. She left him with nothing but a suitcase and the cat they adopted together. 4 years afterward, she lived like someone rebuilding after a fire. Carefully, quietly. She moved into a modest apartment in downtown Chicago, got a stable job as a data analyst, and surrounded herself with a small circle of loyal friends who respected her need for space. She didn't date seriously. She didn't trust easily. And somewhere deep inside, she stopped believing she deserved the kind of love she once dreamed about. By the time she turned 30, romance wasn't even on the shelf anymore. It was tucked away in a box labeled too risky and never again. Then Victor Miles walked into her life. Victor wasn't just another man. He was an institution. At 42, he was one of Chicago's most respected family law attorneys. He had built a reputation for saving marriages, mediating impossible divorces, and writing eloquently about love and trust in a way that resonated with thousands. His book, The Honest Marriage, was a bestseller. He was featured on morning talk shows, giving advice to couples on how to communicate better, how to build intimacy rooted in truth. He was the man everyone believed had nothing to hide. But what Maya didn't know was that Victor Miles wasn't even his real name. Before he was Victor, he was Elijah Mileson. Born in a small town outside Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Elijah came into the world with a body that doctors couldn't easily define. He had XY chromosomes, but his body didn't respond to testosterone. His genitalia never developed externally. Medically, it was called complete androgen insensitivity syndrome. Socially, it was something his family chose to bury. "He's a boy," his mother insisted to the doctor, gripping her Bible so tightly her knuckles turned white. And that's all anyone needs to know. From that day on, Elijah learned that some truths weren't safe. As a child, he mastered invisibility. In school locker rooms, he changed clothes in the bathroom stall. He avoided swimming pools. He laughed off jokes about masculinity but never joined in. By high school, he had learned to keep people at a distance. He had crushes like everyone else, but he never acted on them. How could he, when the risk of exposure was always lurking? At 16, a girl named Marissa kissed him under the bleachers. When her hand drifted lower, Elijah panicked. He pulled away so fast she thought she'd done something wrong. She cried. He skipped school for a week. At 18, he found an online medical forum where someone described a condition that sounded exactly like his. It didn't bring relief. It brought more fear. He realized there were others like him, but he also realized how cruel the world could be. So he made a choice. Silence. In law school, Elijah became Victor. A new name. A new city. A new persona built on confidence, intellect, and control. If he couldn't change his body, he could at least change his narrative. He studied obsessively, excelled in every class, and carved a space for himself where vulnerability was never required. The law was clean, objective. Truth in the courtroom wasn't the same as truth in life. Victor became the man who always had the right answer. The man who helped others fix their broken relationships while never having one of his own. Until Maya. She was different. She didn't fawn over his accomplishments. She didn't chase him. She was guarded but kind. And for the first time in his life, Victor wondered if maybe, just maybe, he didn't have to hide forever. But the fear never really went away. How do you tell someone the thing you've spent your whole life hiding? How do you look at the woman you love and say, "I'm not the man you think I am"? So he lied. Or maybe worse, he stayed silent. He told himself he would explain before the wedding. Then before the engagement. Then before the honeymoon. But every time, the words stuck in his throat. She'll leave, he thought. She'll look at me like I'm broken. And the idea of losing her after finally tasting love felt unbearable. So Victor did what he had done his whole life. He built a wall of half-truths and hoped it would hold. Maya, meanwhile, saw only what he wanted her to see. A man of faith. A man of integrity. A man who respected her boundaries. She mistook his distance for discipline. She mistook his restraint for virtue. And because she wanted to believe, she didn't ask the questions that might have saved her. When Victor proposed on that balcony overlooking the Mississippi River, Maya said yes without hesitation. She believed she was finally being chosen. She believed she was safe. But safety built on lies is just another kind of trap. The night of the wedding was the first time Maya would ever see the part of Victor he had kept locked away from the world. And when she did, the life she thought she was stepping into unraveled in seconds. Victor Miles was not born a villain. He was born into a world that made him afraid of his own truth. Maya Carter was not looking for a victim. She was looking for love. Neither of them knew that their two paths, shaped by fear and longing, would collide in a hotel suite in New Orleans and end in tragedy. Maya Carter's breath caught in her throat. Her hand froze midair, hovering over the man she had just married hours ago. Her heartbeat thundered so loudly she could hear it in her ears, like the room itself was pulsing with her shock. There was nothing. No sign of the male body she thought she knew. No scars. No medical device. No illusion she could cling to for comfort. Just absence. Her mind scrambled for explanations. Maybe he had an accident. Maybe he's wearing something. Maybe this isn't real. Maybe I'm dreaming. Victor, she whispered again, her voice trembling. What is this? Victor didn't look at her. His face crumpled as if every wall he'd built over the last 40 years had collapsed at once. The man who had carried himself with unshakable composure in courtrooms, who could silence a room with a single measured sentence, was now reduced to a pleading shell. "Please," he said, his voice barely audible. "Please don't scream." Maya backed away instinctively, pulling the silk robe tighter around her. The luxury suite suddenly felt too small, like the walls were closing in. "You have to tell me what's going on," she said, her voice growing sharper, more panicked. "What the hell is this, Victor?" He finally looked at her, his dark eyes glassy with something between shame and desperation. "I was born intersex," he choked out. "I don't have male or female genitalia. I was raised as a boy, but my body, it never developed the way it was supposed to. Doctors told my mother to keep it quiet, to just let me live a normal life. And I did. I kept quiet my whole life." Maya stared at him as if he were a stranger, because in that moment he was. "You married me," she said slowly, every syllable laced with disbelief, "without telling me this?" "I wanted to," Victor whispered, his voice breaking. "I tried so many times. But every time I looked at you, I saw the one thing I thought I'd never have. I couldn't risk losing you." Maya's entire body went cold. The man who had built his career on honesty, who had written an entire book about transparency, had lied about the most intimate part of himself. "You didn't give me a choice," she spat. "You decided for me. You trapped me." Victor shook his head violently. "I didn't trap you. I loved you. I still do. I couldn't bear to see you walk away." Maya stood up, her legs shaking. The room felt like it was spinning. How many times had he looked her in the eye and told her they were building something sacred? How many times had she believed him? "You lied," she said, her voice cracking. "Everything, our engagement, our wedding, our vows, it was all built on a lie." Victor stood too, his hands outstretched as if reaching for her could hold the truth together. "No. Maya, please don't say that. I wasn't lying about how I feel. I love you. I wanted to tell you, but you didn't," she cut him off sharply. "You let me marry you without knowing who you really are. You made me a fool in front of everyone. You stole my choice." Her words hung heavy in the air like a verdict. Victor's composure cracked further. He stepped closer, his voice frantic. "Maya, you don't understand. If people find out, I lose everything. My career, my reputation, my entire life. You can't walk out that door and tell anyone. Please, I'm begging you, stay. We can work through this. I'll make you understand. Just don't leave me." Maya blinked at him in disbelief. "So you expect me to keep your secret? To just stay here and pretend like nothing happened?" "I'm not asking you to pretend," he said, his tone edging toward desperation. "I'm asking you to protect what we have. I love you. Isn't that more than physical?" Her stomach turned. "Don't twist this," she hissed. "Love without truth isn't love. It's manipulation." And then his voice shifted. It lost its softness and took on a cold, calculated edge. The voice of the lawyer, the strategist, the man who knew how to control a narrative. "If you go public with this," Victor said slowly, "I will sue you for defamation. You'll never work in this city again." Maya's mouth dropped open. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm protecting what's mine," he snapped. "Everything I've built. My name. My legacy. You don't get to destroy it just because you're upset." Upset? The word detonated inside her like an explosion. "I'm upset," she said, her voice trembling with rage. "You lied to me for over a year. You married me under false pretenses. And now you're scared I'll ruin your perfect little world? You're insane." Victor stepped closer, his eyes dark, his jaw tight. "You think this is easy for me? You think I wanted to live like this? Hiding, terrified someone would see me and call me a freak? I finally had something, someone, and you're going to take it all away because I was born wrong." "You're not wrong, Victor," she said softly, almost with pity. "You're just a coward. And you dragged me into your lie because you were too afraid to trust me with the truth." That word, coward, hit him like a slap. Something in his face twisted. His breathing grew uneven. And in that moment, something in the air shifted. The calm, articulate Victor Miles was gone. In his place was a man unraveling. Maya took a step back toward the door. "I can't do this," she said, her voice shaking. "I can't stay here." Victor lunged forward and grabbed her wrist, not roughly, but firm enough to stop her. His grip burned like ice. "Please," he whispered again, his voice frantic now. "Don't walk out that door. If you leave, everything ends. My life ends." Maya yanked her arm free. "Let me go, Victor." "You don't understand what this means for me," he shouted, his tone cracking into panic. "I understand perfectly," she said, her voice sharp as glass. "You lied. And now you're scared. But you don't get to control me anymore." And then came the moment that would change everything. Victor's face hardened into something unrecognizable. His voice dropped to a growl. "I am your husband," he said slowly, deliberately. "Not anymore," Maya whispered. Something in him broke. In one sudden movement, he grabbed both her arms and slammed her against the wall. The impact knocked the breath out of her. "You're not leaving me," he roared. "I gave you everything." Her mind scrambled for explanations. "You're hurting me." Maybe he had an accident. They stumbled backward. Maybe he's wearing something, knocking over the lamp. Maybe this isn't real. The room plunged into half-darkness. The candle on the nightstand flickered violently, her voice trembling. Maya kicked. What is this?" scratched. Victor didn't look at her. Victor was bigger, his face crumpled as if every wall he'd built over the last 40 years had collapsed at once. The edge of the man who had carried himself with unshakable composure in courtrooms, Maya shoved him backward. Silence a room with a single measured sentence, lost his footing, was now reduced to a pleading crack as the back of his head collided with the sharp corner of the table. Audible. And just like that, scream, Victor Miles stopped moving. Away instinctively, for a long, pulling the silk robe tighter around her. Couldn't move. The luxury suite suddenly felt too small, staring at the man sprawled on the floor. "You have to tell me what's going on," unnatural she said, her voice growing sharper, beneath him, more panicked. His head tilted slightly. "What the hell is this, Victor?" A thin ribbon of blood seeped from the back of his skull, glassy with something between shame and desperation. Like a silent accusation. "I was born intersex." "Victor," he choked out. Cracked. "I don't have male or female genitalia." Shaking his shoulders gently at first, but my body, then harder. "It never developed the way it was supposed to. Please." Doctors told my mother to keep it quiet. She pressed her fingers to his neck. Nothing. And I did. No pulse. I kept quiet my whole life. His chest wasn't rising. Maya stared at him was as if he were a stranger. The warm glow because he'd always carried replaced by something gray. "You married me." "Hollow," she said slowly. "This can't be happening," laced with disbelief. Without her entire body trembled. "I wanted to." "It was just a push," Victor whispered. "I didn't mean to." Breaking. She stumbled backward so many times, her silk robe every time I looked at you, the overturned I saw lamp. The one thing I thought I'd never have. The only light coming from the flickering candle on the nightstand. Maya's entire body went cold. The once romantic setting of their honeymoon, who had built his career on like a crime scene, who had written an entire book about transparency, had lied about the most intimate part of himself. Another part whispered he's already gone. "You didn't give me a choice," and somewhere in the deepest part of her thoughts, a chilling realization surfaced. Victor shook his head her husband on her wedding night. "I didn't trap you." Maya's hands were shaking so violently she almost dropped her phone as she dialed 911. Maya stood up, her legs shaking. "What's your emergency?" The room felt like it was spinning in shallow gasps. How many times had he looked her in the eye choked on and told her they were building something sacred? "I think I killed my husband." How many times had she believed him? The dispatcher's tone was calm, clinical. She said, her voice cracking. "I need you to take a deep breath. Our engagement, what's your location? Our wedding, our vows." She gave the address in a daze. Built on a lie. "Is he breathing?" Victor stood too. "No, he's not." His hands outstretched as if reaching for her could hold the truth together. "Stay on the line." "No. Emergency services are on their way." I wasn't lying about how I feel. Of the room. "I love you." Clutching the phone like it was the only thing keeping her tethered to reality. She cut him off sharply. Minutes passed in a blur. "You let me marry you without knowing who you really are. You made when the hotel door finally burst open. You stole my choice with flashing red and blue lights. Heavy in the air like a verdict. Rushed in. Victor's composure cracked further. Police officers. He stepped closer. The first paramedic knelt beside Victor's body. "You don't understand." Checking for any sign of life. "People find out I lose everything." After a few seconds, he shook his head subtly. "My reputation, my entire life. Approximately 11:42 p.m. You can't walk out that door and tell anyone," he murmured to his partner. "I'm begging you." Maya sat silently in the corner. Her arms wrapped tightly around herself. "Just Don't
She
leave
felt
me.
like she was underwater.
Maya blinked at him in
muffled,
disbelief.
distant.
So you
She didn't
expect me to
cry.
keep your secret?
She couldn't.
To just
It was
stay
as if
here
her
and
body
pretend like
refused
nothing
to let the
happened.
reality in.
I'm not
One of
asking
the
you to
officers,
pretend.
a tall
He said,
black
his
man with
tone
kind
edging
eyes,
toward desperation.
crouched down beside her.
I'm asking you to protect what we have.
Can you tell me what
I
happened
love
here
you.
tonight?
Isn't that
She
more
opened
than
her
physical?
mouth, but the
Her
words
stomach
tangled
turned.
in her throat.
Don't twist this.
He
hissed.
lied to me.
Love
She
without
whispered.
truth isn't love.
He lied about
It's
everything.
manipulation.
I just wanted
And
to
then
leave.
his voice shifted.
He tried to stop me.
It lost its
I pushed
softness
him
and took on a
I
cold,
didn't mean to.
calculated edge.
Her voice trailed
the voice
off.
of the lawyer,
The officer
the
nodded
strategist,
slowly.
the man
We're going
who
to take
knew
you
how
to the
control
station
a
so you
narrative.
can give a full
If you
statement.
go public with this,
Do you understand?
Victor said slowly.
Maya
I will
nodded
sue
numbly.
you for defamation.
As they escorted her
You'll
out
never
of the
work
suite,
in this city
she caught
again.
one last
Maya's
glimpse
mouth
of Victor's
dropped
body.
open. The
Are
man
you
who had
threatening me?
smiled at her under an
I'm
oak tree
protecting
hours
what's mine,
earlier
he
now lay
snapped.
lifeless,
Everything I've
surrounded
built.
by cold
My name.
efficiency. My legacy.
For a fleeting second,
you don't get to
she
destroy it
remembered
just
the way
because
he
you're
used to
upset.
send her late-night voice
Upset.
messages.
The
The way
word
he said he
detonated
wanted to
inside
protect her
her.
like an explosion.
And now he was
I'm
the one who
upset,
needed
she
protecting,
said, her
from
voice
his own
trembling with
secrets,
rage.
from himself.
You lied to me for over a year. You married me under false pretenses. And now you're scared I'll ruin your perfect little world? You're insane. Victor stepped closer, his eyes dark,
By morning,
his jaw
the news
tight.
had spread like
You think
wildfire.
this is easy for me?
Beloved
You
Chicago
think I wanted to
attorney
live
found
like
dead
this?
in honeymoon
Hiding,
suite.
terrified
Bride
someone
taken
would
into
see
custody
me and call me a freak.
The media feasted
I
on the
finally
story.
had something.
Victor
Someone,
Miles wasn't
and
just
you're going
a
to
lawyer.
take it all away
He was a
because I
public
was
figure.
born wrong.
A best-selling
You're not
author.
wrong, Victor.
A man
she
praised
said
for his
softly,
moral compass.
almost with pity.
And now,
You're
hours
just a
after
coward.
saying, I
And
do,
you dragged me
he was
into your
gone.
lie because
Reporters
you were too afraid to trust
outside
me
the
with the
police
truth.
station, their
That
microphones
word,
ready.
coward,
Social
hit him
media
like a slap.
exploded with
Something in his
speculation.
face twisted.
Some people called
His
it a
breathing
tragic
grew
accident.
uneven.
Others
And in that
whispered
moment,
darker
something
theories.
in the air shifted.
Jealousy,
The
rage,
calm,
humiliation.
articulate Victor Miles
Inside
was gone.
the holding cell,
In his
Maya
place was a
sat on the
man
cold metal
unraveling.
bench.
Her wedding
Maya
ring
took a
still
step
on
back
her
toward the
finger.
door. Her hands
can't do
trembled
this,
uncontrollably,
she said, her
replaying
voice shaking.
every moment in
I can't
jagged
stay
flashes.
here. The
Victor
candlelight
lunged
his
forward and
confession,
grabbed
his
her
grip
wrist,
on her wrist,
not roughly,
the way he
but
fell.
firm enough to
When
stop
the
her.
officer finally
His
told
grip
her she
burned
could
like
make a
ice.
phone call,
Please,
she didn't call her
he
mother.
whispered again,
She
his
didn't call a
voice
lawyer.
frantic now.
She called her
Don't
cousin
walk out
Simone.
that door.
If you leave,
her
everything
voice
ends.
cracked.
My
There
life
was silence
ends.
on the other end.
Maya yanked
Then
her arm
Simone's
free.
voice, calm
Let
and
me go,
steady.
Victor. I'm coming.
You don't understand
say
what this
anything
means
to
for
anyone
me,
else.
he shouted,
Do you
his
hear
tone
me?
cracking into
Maya
panic.
nodded even
I
though her
understand
cousin couldn't
perfectly,
see her. She said,
For the first
her
time
voice
since the
sharp as
push,
glass.
tears
You
welled
lied.
up.
And now
She
you're
didn't cry
scared
because she hated
but you
Victor.
don't get to control
She
me
cried
anymore.
because part of her
And
still
then
loved
came the
him.
moment that
Because
would
the
change
man
everything.
on the floor wasn't a
Victor's
monster.
face
He was
hardened
just
into
someone
something
too afraid to tell the
unrecognizable.
truth. But
His
love
voice
doesn't
dropped to
erase
a growl.
consequences.
I am your
By the
husband,
time the sun
he said
rose,
slowly,
the beloved attorney
deliberately.
Victor Miles was
Not
no
anymore,
longer a man.
Maya whispered.
He was a headline.
Something in him
And Maya
broke.
Carter was
In
no
one
longer a
sudden
bride.
movement, he grabbed
She was
both
a
her
suspect.
arms and
By the
slammed her
next
against
morning,
the wall.
Victor Miles was no
knocked
longer
the
a
breath
man.
out of her.
He was a
You're
headline.
not leaving me,
Beloved
he
Chicago
roared.
attorney dead
I gave
hours
you
after
everything.
wedding, bride in custody. The story exploded across every platform. Talk shows dissected it. Twitter hashtags trended overnight. Hashtag wedding night tragedy, hashtag Victor Miles, hashtag bride who snapped. News anchors spoke in somber tones, emphasizing his accomplishments, his best-selling book The Honest Marriage, his countless pro bono cases for struggling families, his reputation as the lawyer who saved marriages. None of them knew the truth. Not yet. Maya Carter, meanwhile, sat in a stark interrogation room at the precinct. Her hair was a mess of fallen curls, her robe still faintly smelling of champagne and candle wax. She stared at her reflection in the two-way mirror. She didn't recognize the woman looking back. Detective Marcus Harland entered quietly, a man in his late 40s with kind but sharp eyes. He placed a folder on the table and sat across from her. Mrs. Miles. Don't, Maya interrupted softly. I'm not Mrs. Miles. He paused, then nodded. Maya, I know you're in shock, but I need you to tell me exactly what happened in that hotel room. She exhaled shakily. He lied to me. About who he was. About everything. I tried to leave. He grabbed me. I pushed him. He fell. That's it. I didn't mean to kill him. Harland studied her for a moment. Did you know about his condition before last night? Maya shook her head. Not a clue. He always said he wanted to wait until marriage. I thought it was because he was religious. I didn't know it was a cover. He nodded slowly, jotting notes. He didn't push further. Not yet. While Maya sat in silence, the storm outside grew louder. Victor's law firm released a brief statement. We are deeply saddened by the loss of our colleague and friend. We ask the public not to rush to judgment during this difficult time. Privately, partners were already scrambling. Sponsorships were withdrawn. Upcoming speaking engagements were canceled. His book publisher pulled planned reprints. The image of the perfect attorney, the perfect man, was beginning to fracture, but no one yet knew why. Two days later, the autopsy report leaked. It revealed what Maya already knew but hadn't spoken aloud to anyone but the police. Victor Miles was born with complete androgen insensitivity syndrome. The report was clinical, almost cold. No external male genitalia present. No surgical scars. No history of corrective procedures. When the media got hold of the report, the narrative shifted instantly. What was once a simple wedding night tragedy became a cultural firestorm. Attorney with secret life? Bride kills husband after discovering he wasn't really a man. Was this deception or survival? News segments turned into panels of so-called experts debating ethics, gender identity, and the nature of deception. One camp sympathized with Victor. He lived in fear his whole life. He hid because society wouldn't accept him. Another camp defended Maya. She was denied the truth. She didn't consent to the marriage she thought she was in. And then there were the cruel voices. The ones who called Victor a fraud. The ones who called Maya a murderer. Social media was worse. Maya couldn't log in. Her accounts were flooded with thousands of messages. Some were supportive. You didn't deserve this. He lied to you. Others were vicious, transphobic murderer. You couldn't handle the truth, so you killed him. Even people who had never met Victor weighed in. Former clients posted heartfelt tributes online. Former colleagues whispered rumors in the hallways of his firm. An old classmate claimed she always knew something was off. And in a quiet coffee shop in downtown Chicago, two women sat across from each other, whispering over their drinks. Did you hear? One said. He always kept the lights off. Said it helped him focus on the soul. She laughed bitterly. I thought it was poetic. Now I think it was fear. The other nodded. He made me feel special, and then he just vanished. Guess we know why. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., Victor's sister Marlene refused every interview request. She flew in for his funeral, stood alone at the edge of the grave site, and left without saying a word. A family friend later revealed she had once asked Victor why he never dated. He had smiled and said, "I'm just waiting for someone who can see me beyond the surface." Now she wondered if that had been a hint or a plea. Back in Chicago, Maya was out on bail thanks to her cousin Simone, who had hired an attorney named Angela Reed. Angela was known for her sharp mind and calm but relentless style. She sat with Maya in Simone's living room the night before the preliminary hearing. "This isn't just a homicide case," Angela said carefully. "This is about consent. About whether his lifelong secrecy stripped you of your ability to make an informed choice. That matters." Maya stared at her hands. "I didn't want to kill him," she whispered. "I just wanted the truth. I could have handled it. I just couldn't handle the lie." Angela nodded. Fear doesn't excuse manipulation. And love doesn't erase deception.
The
following morning, Maya walked into court for the first hearing. The benches were packed with journalists, activists, and curious onlookers. Outside, protesters held signs. Some read, "Justice for Victor." Others read, "Consent requires truth." The courtroom buzzed like a hive. Inside, Maya sat at the defense table, dressed simply in a navy blue blouse and black slacks. She looked nothing like the radiant bride from the wedding photos plastered all over the news. The district attorney, Cole Matthews, painted her as emotionally unstable. "This was not an accident," he told the judge. "This was rage. Betrayal does not justify homicide. If we excuse killing someone over personal disappointment, where do we draw the line?" But Angela Reed countered with a calm, steady voice. Victor Miles was not killed because of who he was. He died because he withheld the truth until it became a weapon, until it trapped my client in a life she never agreed to. That is not love. That is coercion. And when she tried to leave, he physically restrained her. What happened next was a tragedy, not a crime of malice. The courtroom fell silent. This wasn't just about a push. It was about the deeper question no one wanted to ask: how much truth do we owe the people we love? The trial of Maya Carter versus the state of Illinois didn't just fill a courtroom, it consumed an entire city. Outside, crowds gathered every day, holding conflicting signs. On one side were LGBTQ+ activists, holding placards that read, "Victor deserved to live his truth. Don't criminalize fear." On the other were survivors' rights advocates, holding equally powerful words. "Consent requires full truth. Silence is deception." The courthouse itself became a battlefield of ideologies. News anchors camped outside, broadcasting live updates as if this were more than a case. It was a referendum on love, identity, and the boundaries of honesty. Inside the courtroom, Maya sat quietly at the defense table, her attorney Angela Reed beside her. She wore no makeup. Her natural curls were tied back. She no longer looked like the bride in the viral photos taken under silk-draped oak trees. She looked hollow, tired, but unbroken. The prosecution came prepared. District Attorney Cole Matthews stood before the jury with his polished confidence, his words sharp like glass. "The defendant," he began, gesturing toward Maya, "pushed her husband with enough force to cause fatal blunt force trauma. This wasn't self-defense. This wasn't an accident. This was anger. And betrayal, no matter how personal, does not justify homicide." He paused for dramatic effect. If we excuse killing someone over private deception, where do we draw the line? How many lives will we allow to be taken under the guise of emotional distress? The jury listened intently. But Angela Reed was ready. When it was her turn, she didn't shout. She didn't pace. She spoke with calm, deliberate precision, her voice carrying the weight of unspoken truths. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her eyes sweeping across the jury, "this is not about whether Victor Miles was intersex. This is not about shaming a man for the body he was born with. This is about the choice he made to withhold life-altering information from the woman he promised to love." She held up a printed email. This was written 2 weeks before the wedding. Victor wrote, and I quote, "If she finds out, I'll lose her. But I've waited too long to be this close to normal. I deserve this. I deserve one shot." Angela let the words sink in before continuing. "Victor Miles trapped my client in a relationship under false pretenses. He denied her the agency to make an informed choice. And when she tried to leave, he physically restrained her. What followed wasn't murder. It was a trauma response. A tragic accident born from fear, not malice." The courtroom buzzed as the evidence unfolded. Angela presented handwritten notes Victor had drafted but never sent, letters to himself where he agonized over telling Maya the truth. She showed sealed medical records proving Victor had spent decades avoiding specialists, avoiding any chance of confronting his condition. And then came the security footage. A grainy clip from the hotel hallway appeared on the court's monitor. It showed Maya stepping into the corridor in her silk robe, her body tense, her movements hurried. Seconds later, Victor appeared, chasing after her. He grabbed her wrist, pulling her back inside. There was no sound, but the image spoke louder than words. Angela turned back to the jury. "Look closely," she said softly. "Does this look like a man giving his wife a choice? Or does it look like someone trying to contain a secret at any cost?" The jury watched in silence. Outside the courtroom, the debate raged hotter than ever. On social media, people split into camps. Some called Victor a victim of a cruel society that forced him to hide. He lied because the world gave him no other choice. One tweet read, "Blame the stigma, not him." Others defended Maya. Love without truth is manipulation. She didn't kill him for being intersex. She killed him because he tried to force her to live in his lie. Think pieces flooded the internet. Legal podcasts debated whether informed consent should apply to medical and identity history in marriage. Civil rights groups warned about the danger of setting a precedent that could force trans and intersex individuals to disclose personal information under threat of legal consequences. But survivors' advocacy groups countered with the same question Angela Reed had asked in court. How can I say yes if I never knew what I was saying yes to? Maya herself didn't read the articles. She didn't watch the news. In her mind, she was still trapped in that hotel suite, the flicker of candlelight mixing with the sound of Victor's skull hitting marble. One evening, back at Simone's apartment where she was staying on bail, she whispered to Angela, "I didn't hate him. I never hated him. I just wanted him to trust me. I could have handled the truth. But he didn't even give me the chance." Angela placed a comforting hand on hers. "You're not on trial for loving him," she said. "You're on trial because he left you no way out." When Maya took the stand, the courtroom fell silent. She spoke softly, her voice clear but fragile. "I didn't kill him because of who he was," she said. "I killed him because he grabbed me when I was trying to leave. I panicked. I pushed. I just wanted out. That's all. I just wanted out." Her eyes brimmed with tears. "I loved him. That's what made it so devastating. He didn't trust me with the truth. He made me feel like I was part of some experiment. Like I was just a prop in the life he wanted to create." Angela asked gently, "Did you intend to kill your husband that night?" Maya shook her head slowly, tears spilling down her cheeks. "No. I only wanted the truth. I only wanted the choice he took from me." The courtroom was silent, except for the sound of someone in the back quietly crying. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Outside, protesters chanted, cameras flashed, and hashtags trended. Inside, the 12 jurors wrestled with a question that had no easy answer. Was this a crime, or just a tragedy that was inevitable from the moment Victor chose fear over honesty? When they finally returned, the room braced for a verdict that would ripple far beyond those 4 walls. The courtroom was silent as the foreperson of the jury stood. Maya Carter kept her eyes on the table, unable to look at anyone. Her fingers trembled as they brushed the edge of the defense papers. On the charge of involuntary manslaughter, the foreperson spoke clearly. "We find the defendant guilty." A collective gasp filled the room. Some journalists scribbled furiously. Protesters outside erupted in shouts that could be faintly heard through the walls. Maya's shoulders sank, but she didn't cry. She closed her eyes, inhaling deeply. Angela Reed placed a steadying hand on hers. It wasn't over yet. Two weeks later, Maya returned to the courtroom for sentencing. Judge Renee Whitmore, a black woman in her mid-50s with a reputation for balancing justice and mercy, addressed the room. "This case," she began slowly, "is unlike any I've presided over in my career. It is not simply about a man's secret or a woman's reaction. It is about the profound consequences of fear and silence, and the destruction caused when truth is withheld in the most intimate of bonds." She turned her gaze toward Maya. "Mrs. Carter, you are not a danger to society. But a man is dead, and the court cannot ignore that." The judge's words hung in the air. Then came the sentence. 3 years probation. 12 months of mandatory trauma counseling. No prison time. Maya nodded quietly. There was no relief, only a heavy acceptance. She wasn't walking free, she was walking forward with a burden that would never fully lift. Outside the courthouse, the world exploded into debate. Some called the sentence too lenient. "She killed a man," one commentator shouted on national television. "Probation? That's justice." Others believed the trial itself was unjust. "She didn't kill him out of hatred," an activist argued on a podcast. "She reacted in panic to a lifetime of deceit." You can't criminalize a trauma response. Think pieces flooded the internet. Law journals published essays with titles like "When Privacy Becomes Deception" and "The Ethics of Disclosure in Intimate Relationships." Civil liberties groups warned against forcing disclosure of sensitive identity issues. Survivor advocacy networks countered with the same haunting question. How can I consent to something I never knew? Victor Miles' legacy changed, too. His alma mater quietly removed his name from their alumni showcase but funded a scholarship for intersex students in his honor. His former law firm began hosting annual seminars on identity, consent, and ethical disclosure. His sister, Marlene, broke her silence months later with a short statement. "I hated Maya at first. I wanted to blame her. But I realized my brother wasn't just hiding from her. He was hiding from all of us. I wish he'd trusted us. I wish we'd made it safe for him to tell the truth." As for Maya, she left Chicago quietly. She deleted all her social media, changed her phone number, moved to Charleston under her maiden name. She found a small rental home on a quiet street lined with oak trees. She worked part-time at a nonprofit that provided tech training for low-income women. Every morning, she still made coffee for 2 out of habit. Every night, she still slept on one side of the bed. Grief doesn't always come from losing someone you love. Sometimes it comes from losing the version of them you believed in. The court-ordered therapy started as a formality. 1 session a week. Talk about the past. Don't cry too much. But Dr. Elaine Patterson didn't let her off easy. "You didn't just lose a husband," the therapist said one day. "You lost your sense of reality, your ability to trust your own judgment. Do you think you're angry because he lied, or because you never saw it coming?" Maya thought for a long time. "Both," she finally said. "He took away my ability to say no. I thought I was marrying a man who lived by truth, but he was building a life on fear, and he dragged me into it without asking." Months passed. Slowly, quietly, healing began to seep into the cracks. Maya started writing. Not a book, but a journal. Letters she would never send. Thoughts she couldn't say out loud. Reflections about identity, honesty, and the damage silence can do. One entry read, "What I went through wasn't about his body. It was about being denied the truth. You don't get to decide what someone can or can't handle. That's not love. That's control dressed as protection." Another read, "I don't hate him, but I do hate that he didn't believe I could love the real him. Maybe I wouldn't have. But I never got the chance." On the one-year anniversary of the wedding, Maya returned to Chicago quietly. She didn't go to the courthouse or the hotel or her old apartment. She went to Victor's grave. It was modest, just a gray headstone under a row of dogwoods. Someone had left fresh lilies. Maybe his sister. Maybe a former client. Maybe someone who only knew the version of him he allowed the world to see. Maya stood there for a long time. She didn't say much. Just closed her eyes and let the wind speak. When she finally opened her mouth, her voice was barely a whisper. "I wish you trusted me." And that was all. Six months later, she began volunteering at a local community center, leading small group discussions for women who had survived toxic relationships. Not just romantic ones, but professional, familial, even spiritual. She didn't share her full story. Just pieces. Just enough. One day, a young woman approached her after a session, barely 20, eyes heavy with fear. "How did you stop feeling ashamed?" the girl asked. Maya smiled gently. "By remembering that someone else's secrets don't make me dirty." Over time, the noise faded. The headlines dropped lower on Google. People stopped recognizing her in grocery stores. She began dating again, carefully, honestly. The first man she told about her past looked at her for a long moment, then said, "That sounds like something that could have broken anyone. But it didn't break you." And maybe he was right. Because in the end, Maya Carter didn't kill Victor Miles because of who he was. She killed him in a moment of chaos, fear, and grief because he refused to be who he claimed to be, then tried to force her to stay silent. It wasn't premeditated, but it was a tragedy that began the moment Victor chose fear over truth. One of the last entries in her journal read, "Some people will only ever love you through mirrors, reflections of what they want you to believe. It's not your fault if the mirror breaks, but you can choose what to do with the shards." She closed the journal, set it on the table beside her, and whispered one final truth to herself. "I chose to survive."